The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on January 18th, 2022.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Timpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to discuss the visitor accommodations moratorium, as well as the contributions the visitor industry makes to our community and economy. We're going to speak to the State of Hawaii's Strategy Officer in Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office about federal funding coming to Hawaii for broadband and 5G services. And we're going to get to know a bit more about Haleakala Creamery, a Maui dairy company who makes ice cream, cheese, and many other unique products, including caramel, which is delicious, who participated in our 8th annual Hawaiian Airlines Made It in Maui County Festival. But first, we're going to start with Lisa Paulson. Lisa, for 25 years, has been driving strategic growth and visibility for the nonprofit and for-profit organizations. She is just returned to her position as executive director of the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association after a brief hiatus where she worked with the mayor's office. A believer in contributing to the community you live in, she has worked with many of Maui's nonprofits, such as Malama Ikeola Health Center, Hui Noiau, MEDB, Maui On Stage, Book Trust Maui, Maui Academy of Performing Arts, and Maui Humane Society, just to name a few. Lisa, good morning, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Pam. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, we are so glad to have you in your new position, and, your returning position. You know this like the back of your hand, and it comes at a great time as we're looking at new legislation. So I wanted to talk to you for a moment about your thoughts on the County Council overturning Mayor Victorino's veto of Bill 148, which is the moratorium on new visitor accommodations. Since they've overturned the veto, that bill stands. How is the industry feeling about that?
Well, they're disappointed, obviously. We look forward to continued efforts in working with our council and mayor's office for managing tourism appropriately. But the bill, it will not have the intended purpose the council was hoping for. Our visitors will continue to arrive, and the bill does nothing to control something we've all been discussing for what feels like over 10 years, probably 15 now, illegal vacation rentals that have exploded. These illegal vacation rentals don't contribute any taxes to cover their impact on the island, and data is now showing that about 70% of them are owned and operated by out-of-state owners. We feel like legislators keep singling out the hotel industry who legally operate and contribute significant taxes in real property tax, GET, and transient accommodation taxes. And we'll talk about this later, but we also support the community and substantial support for our charitable organizations. We are disappointed. During the holidays, our occupancy rates averaged about 60%, and now some properties are at about 40-50%.
Yeah.
So we do have to ask, where are all these people staying?
Yeah, it is something that has been a long-standing issue. I know when both organizations understood there was going to be a change in accommodations many years back, and there was efforts to legalize B&Bs and short-term rentals. We focused to work on those who are doing it right and who are operating legally. And we've really seen a proliferation of those who are not doing it correctly, and those are folks that are not advertising on Vrbo. I used to call it VRBO, but now they have a commercial out, so I know it's Vrbo. And they're not operating. They're not advertising in the same way. So they're trickier to find, and yet we know that more and more are coming forward. And so, like you said, we're questioning where people are going, but also I think it's really important, and we've said this before, you and I, many times, that also it's really important for people to understand that occupancy is also seasonal. And we have high periods and we have low periods. And in the lower periods, it's a challenge because that means, we need less workers as well. So we want to sustain the industry and attract as many as we can. And we also know that we're still very fortunate. We've had higher occupancies during parts of the past year, but we also weren't competing against many other countries at that time as well because they were still shut down.
Yeah, we've got several sun destinations that are really coming back and coming back strong. And I think that you brought up a really great point, is that we compete with other sun destinations. And the boom we saw after, we opened up, it was because we were a safe place to come, and we were one of a few that were open. So as these other sun destinations come back online and present attractive packages to travelers, we're gonna see that effect as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. But there's concern that, again, with some of the decisions being made without really working with the industry to have dialogue on pros and cons of some of these measures, that many don't understand some of the negative impacts that could be seen or coming down the pike as a result of the legislation.
Yeah, we're very concerned with the rapid actions of the county council, and as has been discussed with many like-minded organizations, we've become very reactionary rather than proactive. I recall days where we had time to set up meetings and have some really thorough, dialogue and discussions before major legislation like this took place. So again, I just express my major disappointment in just how rapid things are being pushed through without a more concerted effort to have a greater dialogue.
It's so true. And as you said, we were in a group meeting speaking with many industry reps the other day, and it's sort of universally felt by many different industry organizations that meaningful dialogue is missing, and it seems to be a process thing. We're swiftly moving forward with things. We're taking community testimony, but not getting to in-depth dialogue. And we hope, as we move forward in 2022, I know it's one of our major goals. Some of the council members the other day were sharing some of their goals for the year 2022, but for the Chamber, one of our major goals is really looking at ways we can unite together and have more informed dialogue, discussion, and education so that we can have broader understanding. And I know that
we
you
look
feel
forward
the same way.
Yeah, we look forward to partnering with you on those efforts. I believe that we all like-minded organizations need to partner together and share a bigger voice.
Yes. One of the things that we have always been united in the Chamber and the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association is also to look at sustainability and how we can be more sustainable. And for the Chamber, we used to define sustainability as the triple bottom line. And before, the triple bottom line was known as the economy, the environment, or social well-being. Some like to call it people, profit, planet. I prefer that we, look at it broader in terms of economy, environment, social well-being, because sometimes while profit is certainly required to sustain both a for and nonprofit, people sometimes view that differently. But today, the old view of sustainability, the triple-legged stool, now is a quadruple-legged stool. So it's economy, environment, social well-being, and culture. And so that leads to some of the things that are now being done, working on a sustainable Maui and working on better managing tourism. So I was wondering if you could share some of the ways that the hotels are being more sustainable and how they're educating their guests more about these elements of our community and our culture and our environment.
Absolutely. Hotels have always been at the forefront of sustainable efforts. They may not have been as good at letting the community know about these efforts, but we have some LEED certified properties, the Andaz and the Hyatt. The hotels have PV panels. They have, interesting satellite-controlled sprinkler systems that look at weather systems and only water when needed, LED lighting, low-flow water, recycling. It's in the hotel's best interest to embrace these efforts because, like you spoke of, the bottom line, this also, is attractive to guests. Guests will search beforehand to see what hotels are more green, and then it also allows for more profitability. So it's in the hotel's best interest to embrace those efforts. Hotels also do a lot of educating of guests, especially in this pandemic or endemic, whatever we're calling it these days. Pre-messaging is very, very prevalent in all of the industries now, and in-room messaging and messaging at key touch points around the property, especially because of, preventing any, injuries and accidents in our oceans. So it doesn't, I will say this as a whole, we probably don't do a very good job of tooting our own horn, but we do partner with a lot of agencies, and we do great things around the island to protect the land and the sea. And, they're going to continue those efforts. It's really to their benefit. And again, a lot of guests these days are looking ahead and finding out what hotels and resorts are green and supporting the environment before they will book their room.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that the guests are looking for that information. So many times lately we've heard our visitors demonized to some extent, where people believe that they don't care. And so many of the guests that we see truly care. In many cases, they don't know how to better care. And we had when we had our reopening and rates were so cheap, we started to see a different type of guests in the beginning. Now we're seeing sort of the guests that we're more used to have coming back as they can. But the type of clientele we've attracted before were people who really did care about our community, and they cared about sustainable efforts and green efforts. And it's nice to, I don't think I've ever publicly heard somebody say that the guests, when booking, are looking for those kinds of things.
Yeah, it is. It's a growing number, and it tends to be our more affluent traveler as well. They can be, they have the ability to be a little bit more picky on where they'll stay. So it's a growing number, and we're proud to say that we have quite a few properties that have really pivoted, and even during the pandemic, it was a really good opportunity to do renovations and, reconfigurations and doing things that would be more sustainable because we didn't have the guests on island.
Yeah. You mentioned that they have the smart irrigation systems, and I know quite a bit about that because Brian, my other half, is a landscape contractor and installs those types of systems. And they're really remarkable because those types of systems, when they see precipitation like rain, they'll immediately shut off. It knows when to water and when not to water. You can set many different levels of controls, and it really, I don't know a lot of the individual hotel data, but I know that when Brian was working just with a smaller boutique hotel, they were able to cut their water bill initially by half and then continue to lower it from there. So in terms of their irrigation water. So it's really been amazing to see just something that many people maybe don't really understand on smart irrigation systems. That's just one of the many ways that hotels are working to be more sustainable and to, conserve our precious resources on island. And then there were things that people did that were unique. I remember years back, it didn't last, but they tried it for a number of years. Grand Wailea had the beehives on the rooftop of the hotels. And so I remember them working to see if there were ways to be more sustainable in other areas. And I know there's a lot of things that also maybe aren't given the light of day because they're still under testing periods, but there's many ways that the hotels are constantly looking to improve their sustainability efforts. And as you said, so many things are going on, and I really look forward, and I know you're working on this, to share more and more of those things that they are doing, because there's so much we don't know, but there's great things happening.
Yeah, there's wonderful partnerships going on out there, even with the recent, partnership with Mahi Pono for, certain chefs to have ground to grow for their restaurants. And it's just, there's so much going on, and we just need to be better about telling our story and educating the community.
Well, we look forward to hearing it, because I know there's so many exciting stories, and count us in on how we can help to promote that.
Absolutely.
I really feel that the community will be surprised. Pleasantly surprised. But in addition to all that the hotels are doing in the sustainability realm, there are also so many contributions and ways that they give back. And, of course, Maui Hotel and Lodging Association coordinates a huge effort, the annual charity walk, and that's one way. But can you tell us a little bit about not only the charity walk, but other ways that the industry contributes to our economy and to our broader community?
Yeah, absolutely. The properties contribute in many ways. They sponsor charitable events. They donate gift certificates for, schools and charities. They discount event space for nonprofits. A lot of the staff do incredible volunteer efforts with beach cleanups, tutoring at schools, workforce development. And then one of the ones that I participated in and really is just a memory I will have forever is, I was able to go to Pu'ukukui, and many of our hotels partner with Pu'ukukui because it is a precious water source. And then the Academy of Tourism and Climb High that supports workforce development. Those are two major focuses. And as you brought up, the yearly charity walk that even during a pandemic raised $1.2 million for our charitable organizations. And lastly, we do have many scholarships that we provide so our young people can attend college.
That is so amazing, Lisa. Tell me again how much it raised during the pandemic, the charity walk this year?
$1.2 million.
$1.2 million in the middle of a pandemic. Yes. When we know how much they were suffering. You mentioned how they contribute to the nonprofits, and we really struggled, as you know, this year with our 8th annual Hawaiian Airlines Made in Maui County Festival, because first the virtual went down on November 6th. But when we were going to go live and reschedule for December 4th, which, we were now to add a live component, we were super thrilled to work with the mayor and his team to be able to do that for a small number who had participated and could do the show. Grand Wailea and their employees came out they were going to come out in a big way. Unfortunately, at the 11th hour, we had to cancel. Not only did they do that, but they also, because we'd spent our budget for the festival with the first festival, and so they also contributed some of their ad buy, $5,000 of an ad buy toward our event, and shifted to helping to market our event, and had a whole bunch of volunteers who were going to come out and help us with the live event. Then the weather hit, and the big storm was coming, and it was looming, and we weren't sure if that was going to work for our guests and for our vendors, so unfortunately we had to cancel till the following weekend, which was the 11th. But the industry was there for us, and the industry was ready to send people out and do what was necessary to help us. And, it's times like that, especially when we have something that's beyond our control or an emergency, we have always been able to count on our accommodations industry. We've always been able to count on the hotels who've come forward and they bring resources and they bring people to help shore us up and make everything okay. And in times where we've seen major industries go down and we've seen huge job loss, it's often the hotel industry who picks up the majority of those employees in good economic times. And so I really feel like there's sort of been a disconnect through COVID where we forget some of the past history. And also, we forget many of their other contributions for when the industry was built and when different properties were built, the major contributions they did and made towards infrastructure improvements, housing, and other ways to support our community as the industry was established.
Yeah, and you're very right. And what people also don't realize and need to remember is that the industry does employ so many of our residents, and those residents are who keep our industry grounded because they remind all of us what's most important, and that's caring for our community and our land and our INA and our water resources.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, I am so glad to have you on this morning. Thank you so much for sharing all the amazing things that your members are doing, and we look forward to working with you and our community to continue to educate on the importance of our hotels and accommodations industry and how we can work together to better manage tourism, to understand the breadth of what this industry brings, to also work on economic diversification. But there's also so many other industries that can be created that are symbiotic with the accommodations industry, that are also in line with our environmental and development goals. And then there's so many industries that we as residents benefit from in restaurant and retail, the likes of which wouldn't have been built to the size that they are today had we not had a very robust accommodations industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Pam, thank you again for inviting me on, and I really look forward to partnering with you and working with you.
I look forward to working with you again as well. We're glad to have you back in your position, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
You as well. Aloha.
Thank you, Lisa. Aloha. We're going to take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
And we're back. Our next guest is Burt Lum. He is with the State of Hawaii's Strategy Office. He is the State of Hawaii Strategy Officer in the State Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office. And Burt is an amazing person who has been uniting a group of people called the Broadband Hui. And this office and the Broadband Hui are dedicated to digital equity and ensuring that Hawaii establishes robust, resilient, ubiquitous connectivity to the global broadband network. He was previously the executive director of Hawaii Open Data, which was a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the principles of open data and knowledge in Hawaii, including policy work and community collaboration. Burt has more than 30 years in Hawaii's technology and communications sector and is a frequent speaker and panelist on the topic of information and communication technology. Good morning, Burt, and thank you for joining us again today.
Hey, good morning, Pam. How's it going?
Good. Boy, there is so much going on in IT technology right now. ICT technology, information and communication technology right now, and you are our leading resident expert. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the airlines and why the FCC is asking for a delay in the rollout of new 5G services near airports, and a little bit about what you're hearing in terms of what that will mean for the network construction that may have been planned, and help people understand why that's occurring.
Well, Pam, that's a pretty big topic, which I think is being handled at the federal level between the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, and the FAA. Now, and of course, FAA is Federal Aviation Administration. The decision to roll out 5G and the frequencies that 5G will reside on has been going on for years now, and I guess, and I can't really speak for how much the FCC and the FAA talk to each other, but they seem to have, how governments might have silos. They seem to have forgotten to talk to each other. So, kind of at this last minute, when the carriers are rolling out 5G on the C-band, the FAA decided to kind of like chime in and say, hey, hold it, it's going to have an effect on the airplanes. Now, the question is, is this something that's perhaps a bit of overreaction? Because, in Europe, they've already implemented 5G, and 5G is already deployed at the airports, and there haven't been any incidences. So I think what they did, the FCC decided to provide some delay, and the delay, I guess today is kind of an important day because this was supposed to be the day where the delay ended and they can proceed to deploy. Now, there have been 50 airports that were kind of designated as perhaps creating a buffer zone. And I was looking at the list, and of course, Hawaii is not on the list. But to that point, the question is, what is the ultimate effect? And I think you can look at Europe as an example. You can also look at how, I guess, the airlines have been very, very cautious. And if you recall, if you go on a plane, they'll tell you not to use your cell phone during the flight. And that, again, I've not heard of airlines getting affected by cell phone usage on the plane, because I know there's a lot of people that actually use their cell phone on the plane, especially during takeoff. So again, it's an issue that is being dealt with at the federal level between the FCC and the FAA. The final decision is yet to be resolved, but we're following it, and again, there may be some degree of posturing on both sides.
So we haven't heard anything since our airports aren't on the list. Are you hearing any discussion at the state level regarding this?
No, because the Federal Aviation Administration is the governing body about operations, at the airports. So again, it's something that, from a state standpoint, it's a bit out of our jurisdiction.
I see. Okay, so that would make perfect sense. It's something that, it was funny, I was given a heads up regarding this about a month ago, and I thought, gosh, well, we've, as you point out, we've been advocating for 5G and for a number of years, and looking forward to our 5G rollout. And so it was like, oh, gosh, well, that's interesting. It's funny that we've been doing this for a number of years and haven't really seen anything come out from the FCC on this. And all of a sudden, over this weekend, tons of news on it.
Yeah, again, there was a concern expressed by, the FAA and the industry the FCC did provide a delay, and I think, when we heard it and until now, that's kind of been the period of delay. Why you're hearing a lot of stuff about it right now is because that delay has ended, and now the question becomes, to what degree does 5G get deployed, and it's a question of whether or not the FAA will stand by their buffer zone proposal, and to what degree the FCC will, I guess, affect the rollout by some of the carriers. And again, the C-band is somewhere between 4 to 8 gigahertz, and again, you fly around. I mean, if you fly into airports, right, a lot of them are already using those frequencies, especially when you have airport-wide Wi-Fi. So again, is it? I think we just have to see how they decide to deal with the rollout.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But I love that you mentioned that. So, as an example, you would say Honolulu International Airport has airport-wide Wi-Fi. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So, again, so to know that we've already been doing it right in the same area where we've got the different gates to the airplanes, and so that's interesting to know. And I think that's the kind of thing people are really wondering. This technology is, for many of us, is at such a high level, something we don't really understand the inner workings of. And so you see something like this, and then you go, wow, well, what exactly does that mean? And why are they saying it's unsafe? And how would it
right. And of course, there's obviously there's always more to the story than what the headline might reveal. And again, the FCC has been on a rollout of 5G for many years, right? And the carriers have been rolling this out, and the FAA obviously knew about it, but to the degree where these federal agencies work with each other, I think that comes into question too, right?
Right. Yeah, because as you point out, I mean, others we're now looking and so excited and hopeful for rolling out 5G, but one of the key things are with this issue is, we've been behind. I mean, Hawaii, it's been rolling out across the nation. We're behind, and so we're excited to roll out. And then all of a sudden, right as time as we're looking to, with the new federal money coming out and rolling out here in Hawaii and deploying these new systems more, hearing this news. And so I know a lot of people are asking about it, and it's great to know that. And again, I have heard a lot of people asking about why the federal agencies haven't been speaking to each other, or why this is coming out sort of just now on the news. Mm-hmm. So it's good to have more understanding, and also kind of relate it to, but in certain areas, given this C-band, we're already doing this in the airports, in some airports. Do you know if that's true statewide? Do you know if that's true for all of our efforts statewide? Or all of our airports?
You mean, do they all have Wi-Fi?
Do they all have airport-wide Wi-Fi?
Well, when you deploy Wi-Fi, it's going to require equipment, obviously, and if you look at your let's say Wi-Fi router at home, it's probably functioning somewhere between the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz. When vendors deploy Wi-Fi, at the airports, I mean, they basically have to conform to those same Wi-Fi protocols. Now, how they go and architect it, and provide sort of like a point-to-point or a mesh network, it depends on how they architect it. But, Wi-Fi is going to function in that frequency range. So, again, it's not like there's no, services that are currently being provided at the airports, and all of a sudden, 5G appears, and it's like brand new. it's actually coming in and leveraging frequencies in that range as well. So, again, it's I think from a technical standpoint, and I don't want to get into the technical issues because I'm not close to it, but it has to boil down to the FAA working it out with the FCC.
Yeah. Well, we'll stay tuned. It's clearly being discussed quickly, so
yeah.
We look forward to learning more on that. Well, tell us, Burt, about all the new things happening with the state Broadband Hui and the federal funding coming to Hawaii for broadband.
So, Pam, thanks for the question. The Broadband Hui, and you've been on it. We've been meeting for the last. In fact, tomorrow will be the 95th consecutive weekly meeting that we've convened since March of 2020, and really we convened this to identify what are some of the needs in the community and what are some of the resources that are coming to bear to address those issues. And when we started, we didn't know that there was going to be all this federal money and federal support for the rollout of infrastructure. So, the Broadband Hui has been very, very instrumental in identifying some of the projects and the needs that the community has and helping to move these projects forward. And realizing that I'm just one guy, so having a cadre of supporters to help move issues as the community sees fit to support these has been really encouraging. And I'll give you a couple of quick notes on what kinds of things has the Broadband Hui been involved in, and one of them is the emergency broadband benefit. And so the emergency broadband benefit, provides the, it ended at the end of 2021, but it provided a $50 benefit off of your internet bill. Now the EBB is transitioning now to something called the Affordable Connectivity Program, and it's sometimes referred to as the ACP. The $50 goes down to $30, but it's still the same frontline supporters and frontline workers that are interacting with the potential recipients of this benefit. So, one of my key subgroup leaders, Laura Archibald from the Department of Health, kind of volunteered, and again, had it not been for the Broadband Hui, she would not have been that involved with broadband and all these programs. But she volunteered to get involved and has assembled a really good turnout for some of the organizations that do frontline. And what we do is we try to help to get the collateral, the marketing collateral, the information, the process of signing up, and then as well as getting the word out on shows like yours, so that people know that this is the way to take advantage of that program. And that's just one example. I mean, and there's with the federal government's, I think, appropriation of this money. I mean, we're looking at a fairly sizable amount of money. So the first big tranche of money is coming from the Capital Projects Fund, and that's going to be something like $115 million. And it's going to go toward, looking at broadband infrastructure projects that could help to bolster up our broadband by creating, a robust network, which could include things like, cable landings and inter-island fiber and terrestrial backhaul. Now, all that sounds, fine and dandy, but, one of the things that we're also working on to help move that along is to convene a subgroup that talks about permitting. And and Pam, you're going to probably love this because permitting is done differently on each of the different counties.
Yeah.
So whether you got Kauai, Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island, and everybody has different permitting groups, primarily in the counties. And so what I have in mind, and this is we're talking as we speak, pull together some folks that are involved with the permitting issues and see how we can better perhaps address some of the needs by looking at what are the permit, what's the permit regime looking like, and can we leverage something that was actually passed back in 2011 called, it's sometimes called the shot clock bill, but it's Act 151, and it actually helps to speed up the permitting process when it comes to deploying fiber. So I wanted to make sure that people knew about that, and can we pull together some of the permit folks and see if we can band together and help to move these projects as, this infrastructure projects start to actually get funded and implemented and, have schedules, and can we help speed that process up? So, that's another example of trying to pull together the folks in the Hui and just see if we can help contribute to the deployment of these projects and the speed at which, the projects get deployed, so that we can get this technology into the hands of people across Hawaii quicker. That's the whole plan.
That's the whole plan. And folks, Burt, how many people do you have on the group? Because it's a big group.
Yeah, we probably have on a mailing list something like 420 plus folks, and it's constantly growing. So on any typical week, we probably have somewhere between 70 to 80 people show up, and we talk about everything from infrastructure and cable landings all the way to rural connectivity, community networks, digital equity, digital literacy. It covers a fairly wide range, and the Broadband Hui's convening every week is kind of a clearinghouse of activities, and then people will then break into subgroups and actually work on areas that are of interest or their specialty, or is something that they have a passion for, and that's what I'm encouraging. It's just kind of a network effect.
You've really done an amazing job. For those of you who are listening, the Broadband Hui that Burt has organized is really tremendous. And as he said, you've got over 100 people coming together and breaking out into special groups. But what's coming out of it are not only finding out about federal programs where we can reduce the cost of people's connectivity for those in need, but you're finding regional projects where you're bringing connectivity to places who didn't have internet access, and giving, there's groups of people who are coming together in different areas across the state, in very rural areas, who are now getting internet access. And then you're giving literacy programs to people who either want to gain digital literacy for a new job skill. It's helpful in our workforce development, to seniors who are needing people to check in on them, or to work with doctors, on video calls and Zoom calls. So it ranges from high-end, how do we install these networks and get permitting and expand Hawaii's network and interconnectivity between the islands and globally, and then to helping individuals get more connected to the resources available and better utilize the technologies to improve their lives. So it is a broad spectrum group dealing with phenomenal issues. And I really want to thank you, Burt, for your leadership. I'm pleased to participate. I know I've been MIA the last several weeks. We've had a lot going on at the Chamber, but looking forward to joining this week, and just really appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Well, thanks, Pam. Yeah, I really appreciate your participation. And, of course, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, you're never going to see this kind of money become available, and it's going to behoove us to do the right thing, right? So that's why I think everybody is committed to helping move this forward.
You're right. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, folks, if the Chamber is here and listening to ideas and sharing those ideas with the Broadband Hui, and we're trying to help promote some of the other programs that others are doing, but that are available statewide. So if you've got any ideas, please feel free to reach out to us at 244-0081. And Burt, thank you so much for joining us on the call today. We appreciate having you on, and we'll have you on again to continue the update.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam.
Thank
Mahalo,
you.
everybody.
Aloha. All right. Well, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce and our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. We're so glad that you could join us this morning. Our next guest is Rebecca Woodburn-Rist, who is the owner of Haleakala Creamery. It is a micro-goat dairy on Maui. It was founded in 2011, and Rebecca's desire to be self-sufficient and part of the local food movement is what inspired her to start an ice cream farm with a handful of goats. Learning along the way, her products have grown to include cheese, caramel sauces, what she calls goat lotto ice cream, and she has been doing this farm now for a while, and we've loved having her as part of the Made in Maui County Festival. When we were live, she would even bring a goat on stage and she would do demonstrations. But Rebecca is a dairy family-run business with her husband and 2 sons. You've got to check out the website. It is so amazing and cute. But we've got Rebecca online here to tell us all about it herself. Good morning and aloha, Rebecca.
Hi.
So great to have you on this morning. So you were inspired to be part of the local food movement. And tell us, though, how you got into goat farming. Do you have any history in goat farming?
No history with goats. It was just I wanted something to make our own milk as a sort of a circle of full self-sufficiency, and thought that a cow would definitely be too big and couldn't fit in the back of my truck. So we started with goats because they seemed like a reasonable small animal, and they are more efficient. So it was they're sort of a gateway. You start with one, and they're very cute, so then you end up with a lot.
Yeah, they are adorable. So how many goats do you have now?
Right now, I think we have between 45 and 50. We're having a lot of kids born, so the numbers kind of start getting a little bit higher during this time of the year. But we're milking, we'll be milking 25 goats this year, and right now we're just milking 10. So we're definitely on the smaller scale of things, milking such a small amount of goats.
Yes, but you've doubled your over-doubled your goat capacity.
Yes, everyone loves our cheese and our skyr and the ice cream, and so originally I thought we would only milk 10 to 15 goats, and with the demand, we've just had to keep adding to the herd, which definitely isn't a problem. As I said, when the kids are really cute, you want to keep them around, so the more the merrier.
I would think that would be an occupational hazard for me.
Yes.
I'd want to keep them all, but at some point I would get that becomes a challenge. Do you sell the goats at some point?
Yeah, I do sell them, and I import my breeding males and to improve our genetics, sort of to continue to improve the dairy goats on Maui and in the state of Hawaii. And so we've sold some goats to the Big Island and Oahu, just to spread our Nubian genetics around. And we're just always trying to improve the health of our herd and the rest of Maui and the islands, of what we can bring in.
That's so amazing. Well, I have to honestly say I have not had your ice cream, but my entire family are raving fans of your caramel sauces. We use them on our ice cream, so we'll have to at some point get your goat lotto ice cream. But tell us a little bit about making ice cream and what makes your ice cream unique.
Yeah, the ice cream was definitely why I wanted my own goat. I love ice cream. But one of the challenges is the difference between cows and goats. You don't get that heavy cream line. In goat's milk, the milk stays all together. And so to make an ice cream, it was going to be a milk-based versus a cream. And so ours, if you don't do much to it, it's going to be very icy. And so ours is a bit of a unique blend. We make a custard-style ice cream to give it that rich texture. So everything is made in very small batches where we cook custards with egg yolks and sugar and our goat milk, and that's really the basic recipe. I've always wanted to make my ice cream with ingredients you could raise on a farm, or you understood the ingredient list, just really good, wholesome ice cream. And so we cook that custard and chill it and then freeze it the next day. It's sort of a 2-day process. Super fresh, though. We use that fresh milk that's only 1 or 2 days old to make the ice cream. And then we make our 4 flavors. We've had the vanilla, caramel, chocolate, Maui coffee, and a mint. And I'm finally starting to experiment by adding some chocolate chips in there. So mint chocolate chip and some eggnog and Lilikoi goat lotto, so some fruit flavors.
Wow. It sounds delicious. So where can people get all of these phenomenal products?
So the ice cream has definitely been a little bit harder to find. It is at Mana Foods and the Pukalani Superette.
Good.
Yep, you can get those there. And, of course, the Upcountry Farmers Market Saturday mornings, we always have all of our products there, too. That's the best place to come and find us.
Oh, great. Okay, so Mana Foods, so primarily Upcountry Haiku region, or Bahia Haiku Upcountry region, but Mana Foods, the Upcountry Farmers Market, and then Pukalani Superette, which is 5 minutes from my house. So now I know that I can go get that delicious ice cream. And that's so amazing. And can people buy online? Do you sell on the website as well?
Not the ice cream, unless we do a farm pickup. We started that last year with the shutdown of the markets and not wanting to isolate, and so we do farm gate pickup. You can order any of our products through our website and then just pick them up at our farm gate. The cheese, the ice cream, our skyr, and a caramel sauce. And then if you don't live on Maui, we ship our caramel sauce anywhere in the U.S.
I'm just telling you, folks, and there's multiple flavors of the caramel sauce. And you can't go wrong with any of them. I would say that we consider ourselves caramel aficionados in our family because we love caramel sauce. And while some of us each have our own favorite, we'd be happy with any one of them.
Well, thank you. Yes, it is a decadent treat, and it's fun. Our caramel sauce, I mean, again, another simple recipe, just the goat's milk and cane sugar, and so you're really getting all that flavor. It's just grazing my animals on the grass of Maui and then turning it into something that is really delicious to put on ice cream or on a spoon.
Yeah, this is amazing. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We'd love to connect with you again. And thank you for always participating in the Made in Maui County Festival. We love having you as a vendor there each year as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we love the festival. It's a great time to meet sort of the whole Maui community and the visitors at the same time.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Maui day. Hui ho.